Hello, everybody. Welcome to the GI Jobs Get Hired workshop. So we are going to get the inside scoop from employment recruiters, and we're going to better prepare you for your employment journey. So my name is Rachel Fitz. I'm the client success manager for GI Jobs. I'm also married to an active duty Marine, so I just want to give a big shout out to all the Marines we have here. Happy 247th birthday today. And today we're joined by two panelists. We have Sara Horn and David Harper. Sara works with Advanced Technology Services, and I'm going to let her give us a quick little intro on herself. Sara?
There we go, unmuted. Hi, everyone. It's so nice to join you guys today. Like Rachel said, I am here with ATS, Advanced Technology Services, and I am a Navy spouse. My husband's currently active duty. We are stationed here in, I was gonna say sunny Norfolk, Virginia, but the weather's hit and miss these days. But I'm really excited to join y'all today, talk a little bit, probably of course share about ATS, but then get to talk to you guys about the secrets of getting a job in today's world.
Awesome, thank you so much. All right, and David works with Melton Truck Lines Incorporated. David, can you give everybody a hello?
Yes, ma'am. Hey, hello to everyone out there. Again, let me echo Rachel. I'm a Marine Corps veteran myself, so happy 247th birthday to all the Marines joining us. Like Rachel mentioned, I'm with Melton Truck Lines. We kind of focus on a lot of different things in the transportation industry, so I'm really excited to kind of share some of that information with you guys and see how we can help answer any questions you guys have.
Wonderful, thank you so much. All right, so during this workshop, we're preparing you all for your employment journeys. Specifically, we have a virtual job fair going on November 16th from noon to 4 Eastern Standard Time. So fun fact, I was actually hired from one of our virtual job fairs, and look at me now. So it is possible. So if you look in the chat, there'll be a link to where you can sign up for that. So there's no cost to attend. We have lots of different companies that want to hire veterans and military spouses there. So go ahead and sign up. And then during the workshop, during the webinar, I'll be giving you a tutorial on how to register. So that will be about halfway through. All right, so let's jump into the questions. So let's talk about preparing for a job fair. David, what advantage does submitting a resume in advance give a military job seeker?
I say it gives a pretty big advantage. Whenever you're searching for a job or searching for a company that's going to fit kind of your values and your interests, there's going to be research done both ways. So a company is going to want to be able to check you out on LinkedIn. That's kind of a quick shout out to make sure that you're, building out that profile on LinkedIn and kind of building that professional image of yourself. But the quicker that we can get that resume to us, whether that's 30 days in advance, 4 months in advance, or whatever it looked like, that gives us the ability to really start kind of understanding and seeing what your skill set is and kind of how you could fit within our company.
Awesome, thank you. Yeah, that's great advice. Sara, do you and your recruiters look at resumes in advance of job fairs?
I would say that especially with virtual job fairs, I would say that is pretty much just common practice for probably almost any recruiter. As someone that works only with the military, I love to take a look at especially individuals that submit specifically to ATS. Their resumes. I think that first of all, it's a fantastic, great first impression, but I definitely take the time to get an idea of like who's looking at ATS. At ATS, we work in the manufacturing industry, so we hire a lot of maintenance technicians, calibration technicians, repair technicians. So when I'm going into these job fairs, the virtual ones specifically, when someone submits a resume ahead of time, it gives me an opportunity to get an idea of, okay, who's looking at ATS, but then those individuals that don't, but I still have access to those resumes, that gives me a really great opportunity to see who's going to be attending in general, especially regionally. If we're close, if we're close to an Army base or a Navy base, it gives me an idea of the types of MOSs that are going to be present at these job fairs. So I definitely think that taking a look, for most recruiters, even in civilian world, looking at the resumes in advance is common practice. So definitely have your resume up there prior to the virtual job fair.
Sorry, can you hear me now?
Yep, we can hear you.
Oh, okay, sorry, it cut out. I'm in the middle of nowhere in Missouri. It's called Fort Lost in the Woods. So Fort Leonard Woods. But yeah, so thank you so much for that. It sounds like, yes, absolutely. Everyone needs to be submitting a resume in advance. And I just want to note also to David's point about the LinkedIn profiles, it's almost like a living resume, I would say, because it really does encompass everything that you've got going on, and gives more of a personality as well. It gives you a chance to really show more of who you are. All right, so let's talk about common mistakes on resumes. So what are some common mistakes you see from transitioning service members or military spouses? David?
Okay, I love this one actually, and it's pretty common. It's a challenge that I face myself when making that transition from, being a Marine to being a civilian. And really, it's the language that you use and how you translate your skill set, your experience, how you make that on your resume on a piece of paper to where someone who never has had that type of experience before, who has no idea what you're talking about, how they can read and understand that and see how that skill set, how that experience is going to apply to their company or their position. So that's going to be the most common one for us.
Yes, absolutely. And just real quick, a great way to mitigate that would be to have a non-military person read your resume or that section, because that's just, or even somebody else who's in the service but is not in your MOS and wouldn't understand all the acronyms.
Great point. Yeah.
There.
And I would add on to that, we all know as individuals that have a connection to the military and other people attending understand that when you are promoting within the military, your resume it's not even a resume at that point. It's a book. It's pages and pages and pages of everything that you've ever done. And that's great when you're in the service, because that's what they want to see. That's what they want to know, everything you've ever done. And so I think there's a lot of pressure put on service members to make their resumes very so concise that I think they leave out some information that, as far as, because we're looking for skills, for trade individuals that have background in certain trades, we're missing some of these, just right off the rip when we're looking at some of these resumes where there's some skills and I'm like, oh, it doesn't look like you have X, Y, and Z skill. And oh no, I do. And I think that they're trying to make them so concise that they cut out some stuff. It's like, oh, I wish you'd have put that in there. So there's definitely a balance, and I've never been in the military, and I still have a hard time balancing just on my own civilian resume. So I know it's very difficult, but I think don't sell yourself short in trying to make it such a short resume that you leave out really relevant skills based on what industry you're applying within. So don't leave out some of those really relevant skills that we want to see on your resume.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you. That brings me to our next question. So how important is it for a resume to be applicant tracking system or ATS friendly? So what advice could you offer that might help improve the chances of a resume getting through? David, yeah, go ahead.
Okay, I would say, remember the idea of using buzzwords, right? So you want to kind of match a lot of the verbiage up in your resume with what the company is seeking, right? So in these different job interviews or different postings, or, when you come across this information on websites, you want to kind of match up some of those buzzwords. That's going to allow that to kind of, catch those words and kind of hopefully push that resume through a little bit more efficiently.
Great. Anything to add, Sara?
Nope, I hit the nail on the head, David.
Yeah. What I have done, so as a military spouse and moving around, I've had a lot of jobs, but I would always look at the job requirements and then highlight anything in green that I knew I was skilled at. And then if I could use improvement, then it would be red. But yeah, taking all of those green highlighted things and taking those exact words and phrases and putting them on a resume is going to help. Thank you, David. All right, would either of you recommend military job seekers investing in an ATS optimization service? So that's something that you pay to have someone optimize your resume. Sara?
I would say no. I think there's enough free options out there, and there, you have opportunities for mentorship with some of this stuff. So, honestly, I wouldn't recommend paying for those services.
I agree. There's so many. When I talk to any sailors that my husband brings home that are thinking of transitioning out, or they're in the process of doing that, I tell them, like, don't pay for anything. If they're having you pay for something, they're really taking advantage, and that's, you can get really good quality resume writing and help and access to job fairs and things like that for free. So please don't pay for something.
Yes, absolutely. In fact, we always have a resume resource in our virtual job fair booth or on the side panel. So if you register today, you'll have access to that in plenty of time for next week. So yeah, agreed. And I know a lot of bases offer, like the Education Center or even the library will have resume services as well at no cost. All right, what about cover letters? This is kind of controversial. Are they still a thing? What do you think? Do you read them? No?
So,
Sara, what do you think? Oh, sorry, David.
Poor guys used to going first. We have it.
Right.
We have it down now. I flip flop back and forth on this. As an individual that has, in the industries that I've been applying, the roles that I've been applying to, cover letters have been appropriate. But 98%, I would say, of the individuals that are applying for positions that we have open at ATS, like maintenance technicians, things like that, a cover letter is really, I think, unnecessary. And a lot of individuals, truthfully, I don't think understand the purpose of them anyway. And so, I think it really depends on the industry that you're trying to work within, the jobs that you're trying to apply for. And that's always something that, kind of going back to those resources and those organizations that will help you with these various, like, resume writing, things like that, they can definitely advise you on that. Like, if you're looking for something if you're trying to apply for a job within accounting, a cover letter would probably be an appropriate piece to add to your resume, like to what you submit when you apply for a job. But if you're applying to be a trucker or to be a maintenance technician, the cover letter, I would say, is probably not necessary. Now, specific to the military, I would say that can depend also. If you're an individual that is retiring after 25 years in the Navy, and you have a lot that you need to say on your resume, and there are some really key pieces that you want to make sure are said, but it's hard to put in a bullet, a cover letter could be really beneficial in that case. So I think my personal preference is if you feel like this is going to be pivotal in the application you're submitting and is appropriate for the role that you're submitting an application for, then go for it. If not, then no, I don't think anyone's going to penalize you for not having a cover letter.
Yeah, it's really good information. So would you say, like, blue collar, maybe no cover letter, and then white collar? It sounded like I didn't know the difference between, like, trucking and accounting. I mean, I know the difference between trucking and accounting, but like a more general.
Yeah, so I'll speak to ATS. So if I had an individual coming to me that is applying for a calibration technician position, and I don't expect a cover letter from them. If that's not, I'm not really going to think twice about it. Now, the individuals that are looking for some of these, I don't want to say necessarily executive level, but some of these leadership levels are like working in a more corporate setting, like in accounting or something like that, just an example. a cover letter will probably be more appropriate. I don't think it's going to make or break their application though, unless it was something like some type of C-suite executive level position. David might have an alternative opinion, so I'd be really interested to hear if we differ.
No, actually, I completely agree with you, Sarah. I think you gave a really great in-depth answer. And honestly, I was really interested by this question right here. So I spent some time talking with and interviewing some, different folks in hiring positions. And, the pretty concisely, it was agreed upon that a cover letter is not something that they feel is a requirement. Obviously, some of these high-level management positions, these, higher-level corporate positions, that's something you probably want to consider using that. But, I got some pretty good feedback from multiple people where there's some alternatives to cover letters. Think LinkedIn. I'm going to go back to LinkedIn here. A LinkedIn message in advance can, in a lot of ways, take place of a cover letter, because like Sarah mentioned, there's not a whole lot of people out there that really use the cover letter effectively the way it's intended to be. So generally, as an answer, I would say no, the cover letter isn't a requirement, especially for any type of blue collar type of position, like truckers. Our largest entry point to the transportation industry are going to be commercial drivers or CDL drivers. We would be quite confused had we received a cover letter from you, to be honest with you.
All right, that's a really good suggestion to send a LinkedIn message. I like that a lot.
Or even a simple email would be fine as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. So what research should a job seeker do in advance of a virtual job fair? David,
do you want to go first?
Okay. I would say as much as possible. One of the most frustrating things is having someone come to you in any type of interview setting and know nothing about your company, right? So doing some research on the industry in general, but also doing some research in advance. If you know that there's a company that's going to be in attendance that you have some interest in, go to their website and see what their traditions are, see what their values are, see what their mission statement is. Learn as much as you can about the company so that whenever you're talking with this individual, you can kind of identify, some of the things that they're looking for. That's one of the biggest frustrations there, is someone coming in generally with an idea of, I'm just applying, I don't know, what I'm applying for or who I'm applying with. So get to know us a little bit and talk about that with us. Ask some questions. That's really key.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think the number one question I get, especially at the live interview, the in-person interviews or job fairs, is someone will come up and say, so what do you guys do? And I have absolutely no problem explaining ATS to someone, because you never know what they could be the perfect fit for a job. But I definitely think I'm really big on first impressions. And so I definitely think that you showing that you've done a little bit of research, and especially because our name can be tricky. So Advanced Technology Services makes it sound like for many people, they come up thinking we are specifically and only an IT company, and we're in manufacturing. So we have a very, very small number of IT positions. So I think when you do your due diligence at the beginning and really have taken some time to at least kind of look and see, like, okay, what kind of jobs do they have available? What is their mission statement? What is their goal in what they do on a day-to-day basis? I think those are not very time consuming. You could spend 20 minutes or less and learn a ton about a company, especially because we live in such a virtual world. Companies are being held accountable these days for really being forthcoming about who they are, and on their social media, on their websites, what their mission statements are. I mean, we've always had mission statements, but really being forthcoming about who they are and what their goals are and how they want to impact you and what they have to benefit you as an employee. And so I think you can learn quite a bit about a company in a very small amount of time just by visiting their website. So it doesn't take a lot of effort for something that can really be a pro as a recruiter when you come to talk to me about it. So I think definitely spend like 10, 15 minutes just taking a look, and you'll be better off for it.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's great advice. And then taking that even a step further, once you look at that mission statement and see what the company culture is, make sure that it's something that aligns with you and your culture. And so, you know, it's not only is the job right for you, or are you right for the job?
Right.
So, and then writing down like 1 or 2 questions that you can think of from that information, and then bringing those to the initial chat is gold. And I think it would just really make you stand out, and relevant questions, obviously, not what do you do. So something based on the information that you find. Yeah, thank you so much. All right, so do military job seekers need to actually apply for a position before a recruiter will talk to them at a virtual job fair, or what do you recommend? Should they apply on the jobs that they research, or just come in and have a chat?
I don't personally think it's a requirement. Sorry, we're just taking on.
No,
we're really not letting you do your job, Rachel. I personally don't feel like it is a requirement. I think it's great if you do, because it just shows that you took the initiative and that you spent the time. You actually, if you went and applied, that means that you went to the website, you looked at what we had available. So for me, it just shows initiative right off the bat. I don't believe that it is a requirement. Now, I only work with military. As far as what my other recruiters would say that are only working with civilians, obviously I don't know. So I wouldn't say that's a general rule of thumb across the board. But for me, it's not a requirement. I just think it looks fantastic that you took that initiative to do so.
100% agree with Sarah. No, not at all a requirement. You know, we like the fact that, you know, we talked about doing the research and learning. We like the idea of the fact that you want to connect with us, you know, before you kind of get to that step where you're applying and kind of moving down the direction to learn a little bit more about the company, get some of these questions answered. Just make sure that you feel that we're going to be a good fit for you. That gives us an opportunity to kind of get to know you a little bit in the beginning stages as well. So no, definitely not a requirement. We love to have those conversations up front before helping you kind of move down that direction.
Awesome, great advice. Yeah, and another benefit of having a resume in advance is once you have a chat with the recruiter can right then at the end of their chat, at least in our virtual job fairs, they can submit your information directly to their HR people, and so it would just kind of like move you to the head of the line as far as looking at resumes. So yeah, great advice. All right, well, we are going to take a quick intermission in which I'm going to demonstrate how to register for our virtual job fair. All right, so if you give me just 1 second, I will share my screen. Okay. Here we go. All right. So can you guys give me a head nod? Can you see my screen? Awesome. Okay. So to register for our event, you are just going to go to gijobs.com. And then right here at the top banner, it says Virtual Job Fair, November 16th, reserve your ticket. Click on that. Oh, I already did it. And then that will bring you here, which will, again, it has a nice countdown on how long you have until the event. Click on reserve your ticket, and you will get to our registration page. So if you have ever attended a Brazen event before, you'll click on log in. Otherwise, you'll click on sign up. Then you'll be brought to the registration page. Now, you want to make sure that you complete your registration as much as possible, because all of this information is available to the recruiters, and they want to know as much about you as they can to make a decision. And a lot of them come in early and take a look at the available candidates. So you want to make sure that you've got an accurate headline. Some people will say your next client success manager, or put in something, you know, attention grabbing, your city. And like I said, I'm in Waynesville, Missouri. It's very small. So Missouri, you know, your location. Are you willing to relocate? So as a military spouse, I don't have this option, but many of you might be transitioning and you're just open for anything. A resume, like we discussed, very important to have this already imported. So mine's already on there. A LinkedIn profile, make sure you get that in there. But please, if you haven't looked at your LinkedIn in 5 years, make sure you go back and update it before you put your link in here. Your education level, all of these things, area of expertise, make sure you're specific as possible. So this one is a drop down and you'll have to choose from one of the options. But area of work experience, this is a text field. So you can put in your specific skills that aren't listed in the drop down. I don't know why it says Air Force. I am, what is your military affiliation? How many years did you serve? All of these things are going to help the recruiters find out more about you. Security clearance is very important. If you have a security clearance, make sure that you include this because all of the data that's stored in here is very secure and isn't going to be shared with anyone other than the recruiters that come in to look for this. And we have a lot of companies that attend our virtual job fairs that are looking for individuals with a security clearance. So if you have one, make sure you fill that out. Are you interested in furthering your education? Are you interested in a franchise opportunity? So yeah, maybe. Oh, good. Are you, this is optional. So if you'd like to identify as a protected veteran status or not, and then any certifications, licenses, and this is really anything that you've gotten past grade school. So it can be pretty wide. And then a phone number is also really important to include. So you'll click fill all that in, click submit, and then you get to see all of the employees. So we talked earlier about doing your research. And on our job fairs, you have the lobby and, oh, well, that's not it. All of the company information will be in one place. So you can do all of your research right here in the job fair. What's happening? It might have timed me out. Sorry, everybody. And I will show you those beautiful boots in just one moment. Here we go. All right. There they are. Okay, so these are the booths that are, these are the companies that are in our November event so far. And let's just click into Dev 10. So you get a little snippet right there on the preview about who they are. And then this kind of tells you their mission, their culture, their focus on potential, passion, and desire to learn. So this company, it really looks like they're just interested in getting people starting in a career, some entry level, starting their tech career. They've got their priority listings right here. So these are jobs that are available now and they're looking to hire. And then they've even included a video for you and more information. So I definitely encourage everyone to come in early, register now, and then take a peek at all of these different options because there's a lot of employers here. And like I said, the more you know about them going into it, the better chance you'll have of having a productive conversation and potentially getting a job. So almost all, I think every one of them has job boards listed in their booth. So you can click on the job board, see what's available, do a quick search and see what matches you. And then you can even bring those specific job titles with you to your conversation. All right. Yes. You can, there's a question, can you update the information if you've registered before? Yes, that is very simple. You can come right over here to your sidebar and click on registration, and you can edit your register field at any time. So you can change your image, you can, update whatever it is you need to update. All right. And we have another question, how to create a LinkedIn profile that ties into the 5 job specific resumes. Sorry, I don't understand that question. Does that one make sense to you guys?
No, I was reading it and I was like, I don't know, I'm unsure of the 5 job specific resumes piece. I'm sure if we can expand on it, we'll be able to
Okay.
answer.
Yeah. All right. Okay. So yeah, so this is it. There's the lobby, and then after the event, if, as a candidate, you can look at your history, and all of the chats that you had with any recruiters will be listed here. So you can still log in after the event and see what you guys talked about, and then that will help if you wanted to send a follow-up email or LinkedIn message to that recruiter. All right, so that is it for my little presentation. So I will stop sharing my screen, and we'll talk about, we talked about prepping for the event, and now we're going to talk about what to do in the actual event. If I can figure this out. Anchor, how do I stop sharing my screen? I'm sorry, guys.
Rachel, if we have feedback, so someone asked about the protected veteran status. I have a really good resource from the Department of Labor that I can share. Is that okay that I share that in the chat?
Yeah, absolutely. Just make sure you send it to everyone, please. I don't know what I'm doing wrong. Oh, so I'm not sharing the screen. Oh my gosh. Okay, thank you. All right. So let's get back into the questions. So let's talk about dress code. What should someone wear? Because there is the ability to do video interviews in our virtual job fair. So what would you guys suggest a candidate wear? I'm not even going to try to tell you guys.
Okay.
Go first.
I'm going to take the lead here. So that's actually a really good question. And, you know, I think it kind of depends on where you're at, you know, where you're at as far as your down the road, as far as if you know what you're planning on pursuing or if you're completely open. So a lot of these job fairs, whether it's virtual or whether it's in person, you're going to see many different industries out there, right? So you kind of have to dress, you know, to impress pretty much any industry, whether it's my industry in transportation or even in Sara's. So, you know, if you're completely open and you're going to be in front of multiple different types of industries, multiple different types of people, the better dressed, the better. You don't want to show up at a table connecting with a company underdressed. So there's nothing wrong with the suit and tie. Now, if you have a little bit more narrowed or specific interests, let's say you're interested in the transportation industry, for example, I'm going to talk from my perspective here. You know, if you come meet me in a suit and tie, I will feel that you're probably a little overdressed. So to some degree, you can dress for the industry or for the job that you're seeking, right? So coming in business casual, you know, a pair of nice pants, maybe a button-up shirt similar to what I'm wearing, you know, kind of casual, but you're also dressed up. I don't want you to overdress me necessarily, right? So I want you to kind of dress for the specific interests that you have, or if you're completely open, feel free to throw on that suit.
I'm in agreement with David. I think just try to, I say read your audience. If you're looking for a job in manufacturing and, you know, it's nice if you put on the nicer pair of jeans or the nicer pair of pants and the cleaner shirt and all that. It pays to look like you put effort in, but if you are, especially if the majority of individuals are in there are from manufacturing or in the transportation industry, like what we're talking about, those blue collar, I don't expect anyone to come in a three-piece suit or anything like that. And now I will say, and I could get some flack for this, if the career fair, whether it's virtual or in person, is on a weekday and you are currently active duty, you can always wear your uniform, and that no one will ask any questions. It will, that I have had a lot of individuals, especially at in-person, when it's been during the day of a week, and they've just come in and they've worn their uniform because they're trying to speak to multiple multiple individuals in multiple industries, and they didn't want to overdress, they didn't want to underdress, but they know, okay, I can wear my uniform and I've kind of got all my bases covered. So now don't pull your uniform out if you've been out for a while, but if you're active duty, that is always, that's always acceptable as well. And there's no judgment that you're showing up in your uniform either. So that you're covering your bases with that too. So I could probably get some flack for that, but I think it's always acceptable. And I agree with David on his other points regarding dress if you're not wearing a uniform.
And just to add on to that, Sarah, I mean, I love to see what the rank is anyway. So if they're wearing the uniform, I already kind of know who I'm talking with. So
I should have known that was coming.
I just vote that if they wear dress blues, they should get hired. That's my vote. The Marine dress blues.
And if they wear the really fancy stuff, their dress uniform, then.
All right. But yeah, great advice. For the virtual job fair, just make sure it's a nice shirt, maybe have a jacket nearby if you want to dress it up, but go with sweatpants underneath. You're not going to stand up, so be cozy. All right. So let's say that the job seeker has researched the top companies they want to talk to, researched the roles available, and perhaps even applied to them. They've completely filled out their they've completely filled out their registration fields, and now it's the day of the expo. So when they come into your booth, what should their introduction or opening question look like to better their chances of engaging?
Oh gosh, I'm a big believer in I've had some people come in hot right out of the gate saying, this is I am so-and-so, this is, I'm active duty Navy, this is what I do in the Navy. I've taken some time to look at your, they really have like their elevator speech kind of down. And I really like that, because to me, it says, okay, they're not just it's kind of the equivalent of them coming up to my booth in person and saying, hi, my name's Sara. I've researched your company and I'm really interested and learning more about what it is you have to offer. These are the kinds of jobs I'm interested in. When they come in to the booth and they kind of have a little bit of it's almost like your LinkedIn spiel, but immediately when they enter the booth of a virtual career fair, I am always impressed with that. And that to me makes me want to move to a different room with them and chat with them about, okay, what is it you're trying to get out of this virtual career fair? Do you already have something in mind? Like I already have, okay, they're here they mean business kind of thing. And then I have some individuals that come in that I've done a little bit of research. I just wanted to hear a little bit more about the company. This is what I do. And so it's a little bit more casual of a conversation. But those individuals that come in that are real hard hitters and really kind of I like that go-getting attitude. That could be because that's just how I am. And so I really appreciate that. And that immediately makes me want to engage in a more meaningful conversation and take a deeper dive into what it is they're looking for as they're attending the virtual career fair with us.
And I agree there, Sarah. Love the elevator pitch. Maybe just something to add on to that. In a virtual setting, I don't want to see you or know that you're reading it. I don't want it to come off rehearsed, like it's robotic. Kind of master that elevator speech so that you're comfortable and confident. You can casually talk up front, just a nice little opening so that we know who we're talking with and we have a little bit better feel for you. Now, what you don't want to do, especially in a virtual setting, is you want to keep that short. You don't want to have a long opening. And in a virtual setting, there's got to be some back and forth, and it's a little bit more difficult. So if you come barreling into the conversation and we're 2.5 minutes in and I haven't even had a chance to say a word yet, that becomes very difficult. In a live setting, I say live, in an in-person setting, you can read body language a little bit better. I can put my hand on your shoulder to help you relax a little bit. You know what I mean? It's a little bit easier to, kind of take that level down a little bit. But in a virtual setting, make sure to kind of master that opening elevator speech, keep it short, be confident, be comfortable, and just have a conversation.
Yes, awesome. Very good information. All right, the time limit is set to 10 minutes for an initial chat. So what are some questions that our candidates can expect to be asked during that 10-minute chat? It's not too long of a time to really dig into the deeper details. So what can they expect?
You say the beginning of that really quick. You cut out on my end. I'm not sure about anyone else's.
No, you're okay. Our chats are limited to 10 minutes, 10-minute increments. So what questions can our candidates expect to be asked in just such a short amount of time?
I'll let David go first.
Okay. Okay, so one of the questions we're going to, that I want to know is I want to know what your experience looked like in the military, right? I want to know what that MOS looked like. Now, if you're talking with someone who kind of, has some shared experience that, when I connect with a veteran, we feel a little bit more relaxed and able to have those conversations using a little bit more lingo and terminology that we understand. So you have to understand who you're talking with as well. But I want to know about your military experience. I want to know what type of skill set you have. I want to know some intangibles as well, right? Not just, hey, I was and here I'm going to do it. I was an 0311 in the Marine Corps, right? I want to know more about it, right? Outside of the military, let's say you've already transitioned out. I want to know what that transition was like for you, right? What kind of challenges you faced, and then ultimately why you're interested in this position and how you see, your career projection or trajectory in our industry, and what kind of growth you're looking for.
Everything David said. Plus, I typically like to ask too. I like to make sure that I understand where they're looking to be located. If that's not already something that I have seen prior to them coming in or something like that, I want to know where it is that they're looking to be located. And I also like to ask two of my favorite questions. One of them is related to what David said. I have a harder time getting to that rapport building part because I'm a Navy spouse, so I haven't been active duty, so I can't swap war stories, I guess, if you will. And so it takes a little bit more time to get to that, I think, situation where the service member or the veteran feels comfortable just talking with me about what their time was like. So I like to ask them, okay, give me an example of what a day looked like for you in that MOS. And then that typically will help them to speak more in layman's terms sometimes if it's something that's real complicated and like, okay, I have no familiarity with that. So it helps us to start to speak the same language. But then I also like to ask them what they're looking for. Like if you could tell me in a couple bullets, what would you say you're looking for in your next job? And then that way, obviously I don't, like we're talking 10 minutes here. I don't need them to give me a 5-minute elevator speech on this is what I'm looking for in a job, but I do want to have an idea of what they're hoping to do in their next career, because I could have a job that would fit and it would be a fantastic fit for them as skills wise and things like that. But if they're looking to go in a different direction and that position that I have in my mind for them isn't really going to take them there, then I want to be forthcoming with that information and stuff as well, because I really want them to really like what it is that they're applying for and all of that. So those are some additional questions that I ask, but for the most part, I mean, David hit the nail on the head with kind of those wickets and that 10 minutes.
Awesome, thank you. Yeah, so experience, basically where you've been, and then what are you looking for, where are you going? So good, great advice. We had a really good question come in through the audience, and it says, when is a good time to ask about the position salary? Obviously, you don't want to walk straight in if it's not listed and say, how much does this pay? But, on some level, you don't want to waste anybody's time. So when would you guys recommend asking about the pay?
I think we can give some very good different answers here. Sara, I'll let you go first.
So as I've mentioned this before, the majority of the positions we're hiring for are maintenance technicians, repair technicians. So we're talking the majority of these individuals, if not all of them, are hourly. And so that's not typically a conversation that's super uncomfortable. After a while, if we've spoken and we've really kind of covered the gambit of, okay, this is what you're looking for, this is your skill set, this is who ATS is, this is what we're looking to do. And then we get to the point where I'm like, do you have any additional questions? And they say, I would be interested to know what the pay range is for this. I think that's a completely appropriate question. We get it all the time because we're working in manufacturing. It's an hourly position. I think that's completely appropriate. This is where kind of going back to that cover letter piece, when you're looking at some of these positions that are more salaried positions, I think that it's an appropriate question to ask when someone says, okay, what additional questions do you have, and say, what's the salary range look like? But I don't think that you should plan on that being the last time you discuss salary, because there's a bit more wiggle room and negotiation that typically occurs when that's the type of pay you're receiving. When you're talking, when I'm working with individuals, we have a set range, and we're pretty fixed on that hourly range. So I think I don't think it's ever an inappropriate question at the end of a conversation, but I think how often you bring it up and how often it's discussed is different based on what type of job it is that you are applying for.
And just to kind of add on to Sara, what you mentioned, I think you hit all the right points there. Transitioning out of the military, get into a new industry you have no experience in, you've never been in before. I go back to research, right? First and foremost, you want to research these positions, research the industry, make sure that you're going to be in the range that you want to be in. You don't want to be completely thrown off guard when you do have that initial conversation and you learn that this salary is way underneath what you were hoping for. So there's lots of resources like Indeed, Glassdoor, where you can get a head start and just make sure that you're in the right ballpark, what you're looking for before getting to that point. Now, I want to talk about more the blue collar and more specifically the transportation world. So like I mentioned earlier on, the most common entry point into the trucking industry are commercial drivers, CDL drivers, right? And that process looks a little bit different because there's some upfront training requirements, some licensing that you have to complete before you really ever get to that hiring or interviewing process. So because of that, it's a little bit different approach for recruiters to be able to connect with these drivers. They typically do it either before or even during their CDL training. So ultimately what we're looking to do is we're looking to build relationships with these guys. We're looking to, get to know them, find out what their interests are, find out what type of roles that they're looking for in the industry. And I can tell you that 99.9% of the time, pay is the very first question that is asked. And that's common. Honestly, I want that question to be asked because I want to talk about pay first, benefits first, make sure that's going to hit the check marks of what you're looking for. Then we can move past that. We can get into some of the more intangible things like the culture and, the support levels and what we can do to support veterans, whether you've been out for years or, you're making that transition now. So there's absolutely nothing wrong if your focus is on the transportation industry or a similar type of role. It's very, very common to have those questions. Actually, a lot of recruiters will lead with that information whenever they first connect with you. They'll say, hey, we're going to give you an opportunity to make this kind of money, these type of benefits. Is that something you're interested in learning more about? So I guess it depends on the industry, the type of setting. Yeah. So sometimes the answer is yes, it's perfectly fine to have those conversations up front. And sometimes it's, hey, there's a little bit of a process, a little bit of research on your part before you start having those conversations about pay.
And I will say in manufacturing, it's very much the same. Every recruiter, when we're especially just talking to individuals that we've reached out to on Indeed or something like that, like if we're talking separate from just career fairs, a lot of times, we don't get past the email opportunity. or we will just because they asked up front, what's the shift and what's the pay, like what's the hourly. And that can be really great to ask up front, because then the recruiters aren't spending their time going through this whole phone screen. And at the end, they're like, oh, well, I can't do that. I think for me, when I'm at a career fair, it's always nice when they wait a little bit of time before they hit me with well, what's it pay? So I think, but I definitely 100% with everything David added. I think I would say is applicable in manufacturing as well.
Okay, very cool. It's good to know. I think, yeah, because pay is obviously very important. You know, people have goals and families, and yeah, payment, bills for sure. All right, we actually had another question come in that I just want to address very quickly. But David asked, not you, David, a different David asked, to improve chances on getting hired, should one agree to working weekends, holidays, nights, those kinds of things? Just one quick piece of advice on that. What would you guys say?
Sara, I'll let you go first.
I was like, who's going to take this one? From what I've seen, I'm going to say this, and then I'm going to tell you what I believe is the right thing to do. In manufacturing, there are individuals that come and they know, I love working the night shift. I love having this alternative schedule. I love taking advantage of overtime on the weekends or the holidays or this, that, and they know that. And those people, that is their bread and butter. And we love those people because they fill in those holes in the areas that people do not, that I don't want to work holidays. I don't want to work nights, those types of things. So those people exist. If you are not that person, especially, and now I'm saying this because I'm a military spouse and my husband is gone for a lot of holidays. He's gone for many nights. So if you are not that person, if you are getting out of the military or have been out of the military and that's not something that you want to be your regular schedule, we are currently in a time where it is a employees market. It is a job seekers market. There are a ton of opportunities available for you to not have to choose to work a schedule that you really do not like. So I would rather you work a schedule and apply to a job that is a schedule that you like. That means you're going to stay with us, versus saying, okay, I'll agree to working this schedule that I hate, and we only have you, and you get burnt out, and we only have you for 6 months. That's not, when we hire you, we're hiring you because we believe you're a culture fit. We believe you are, you have the potential to move in whatever trajectory you want with us, and we want you to stay for the long haul. And if we don't get to do that with you simply because you felt you had to take on a schedule that you didn't like, then I feel like I did the wrong thing as the recruiter, as the person hiring you. But I hope that you were never made to feel like that was something you were required to do. So contacts, there are people that love that, and they will do that every job they have. I don't believe that is something that you should do if you feel like that's not the type of schedule you would like to keep.
Yeah, that's a great answer. So basically just be honest and, manage expectations from the get-go. So if you want to do those things, fantastic. If not, don't say you will, or you'll be held to it probably.
And I had the opportunity to read it a couple more times, and really, I'm curious why David asked this. To me, it sounds like maybe you're trying to demonstrate your flexibility with the company and your willingness to do different things, or you're trying to demonstrate your commitment level and saying, hey, I'm willing to stretch myself and do even more, for the opportunity. And like Sara mentioned, it's a job seekers market out there. And first and foremost, whenever you're connecting with companies, that when you learn about them, you're going to learn, Are these companies military ready companies? Do these companies understand and, have a plan in place to not only attract and hire veterans, but also understand what they need as far as support and resources? And the last thing that we want is to someone to come in and kind of overextend themselves. And I'll tell you guys, I'm the most guilty about that myself, even to this day, of not being able to say no sometimes, right? So it's important to understand that about yourself. And I don't think, very few situations you're going to come across where you can say, this is what my interest level are. I'm definitely willing to be flexible, but we don't question your commitment level, right? That's one of the reasons that we want to hire veterans, because we understand not only the experience that you're bringing to the table, you're bringing a lot of intangible qualities to the table, right? The core values that you're bringing, the commitment level that you're bringing, right? That's not a question that we have about you. So you don't have to overextend yourself and try to demonstrate that to you. That's why we're talking to you in the first place.
Yeah, great. I love it. Yeah, everybody should be confident going into their interviews, or really these are just initial chats. All right, so we only have about 4 minutes left. So I'm going to ask one more question. And I see this, one of our participants has asked about, they have 5 different very specific resumes, and they're asking which they should have on their LinkedIn. So do you guys have an answer for that? Maybe just like one general resume and then the more tailored ones for actual applications. Yeah.
Just because we're short on time, just a quick answer. Yeah, you should have a general or a master resume, and then you should tailor each of the resumes to the jobs that you're applying for.
Yeah, awesome. Okay. So what level of education do your positions typically require? If you could just give me a quick percentage, maybe like, is it 50-50, you need a degree or not? Or what level of degrees do your employees have to have, David?
We have very few positions that's going to have really a hard educational requirement outside of like accounting and some of those more, technical type of positions. As a CDL driver, we don't require any. There's going to be some additional training and licensing up front. And then a lot of the internal positions, a lot of the corporate positions, that don't underestimate your experience as a veteran, right? Or as a, someone who served in the military. A lot of times that right there can overcome the lack of a degree with us.
Okay, thank you. Sara?
Yep, the majority of our positions, high school diploma or GED, and then really throw out there all the education that you received during your time in the service, because it's essentially the hands-on stuff that some of these individuals are only learning about in textbooks while receiving an associate's, while you were spending that time. Not that one is greater than the other, but we recognize the value. So, but as far as requirement, majority high school diploma, GED, and if you're doing some like engineering or something, obviously bachelor's degree in engineering and stuff like that, but majority high school.
Okay, good to know. All right. Last question, what advice would you give on our military spouses and veterans coming into a job fair on not to do? What should they avoid at all costs? Sara?
Oh, David looked ready to go.
Oh, sorry.
Go for it, David.
Okay, I'll jump and take this one. Don't overshare. Okay, don't overshare, especially when you're connecting with someone who is a veteran. For example, you have that level of comfortability there. A lot of times people, they hit the right check marks, right? They talk about the right kind of things, but then because they're comfortable and we build a little bit of rapport, they continue sharing and oversharing. And a lot of times you can raise red flags about yourself, you can disqualify yourself. So, stick to the basics, stick to what the conversation is about, and don't overshare, please.
I would say don't come empty-handed. So even because I know some individuals will be coming and they won't have a resume yet. That's, if you're active duty and you don't have a resume yet, that's okay. Bring a summary of yourself, something that I can take home. I guess I'm sitting here talking about this is an in-person opportunity, but like with the virtual stuff, you have a lot of opportunities to fill in information about yourself. Give as much of that as you can. I know I'm kind of saying the opposite of what David just said. Overshare the required information, so that gives me a lot of opportunity to get to know you prior to meeting you and to retaining your contact information. Just don't come empty-handed when it comes to doing something that will make me remember you after the fact.
Wonderful. Well, thank you guys so much for being here with us and giving us all this wonderful advice. For all of our attendees, there are resources in the chat. So there is a link to topresume.com. It's a free resource for resume assistance. And then there's also links for a free year of LinkedIn premium subscription for military spouses and for veterans, for both of them. So yep, thanks everybody for being here, and we hope to see you all in our event next Wednesday, November 16th. All right. Happy birthday,
Thank you all.
Marines.
Thank you. Happy birthday, Marines.
Thank you.